So, how many of you guys have been to one of our spirituality and activism events or conferences? Okay, good. All right, so what we are going to do, what we're going to do is have a list of questions, and we're going to have the panelists, give their views and their takes to it. We hope to have a diverse train of thought that comes from each and every member that we have on the panel that we're so honored to have, and so blessed to hear the information that they're going to share with us today. So I'm going to introduce each panelist, and what I'm going to ask them to do, as I introduce them, I'm going to let you know the organization that they're with, and I'm going to, as I introduce them, I'm going to have them say what is their spiritual practice, and a little something that they want to share with you guys today, okay? So first I have Brother Ross. He's representing the Alliance for Black and Brown Advocacy.
I guess my spirituality, my spiritual practice, I think I was introduced to God through the Christian Protestant religion, and then from there I've taken my own journey. I don't necessarily want to give anything to the group. I am looking to connect to what's already inside each of us. So hopefully we can have a great engagement conversation about how our spiritual walks intertwine with one another.
Thank you. Next, we have Minister Houston. He is with the House of Sankofa.
Hotel, brothers and sisters, my spiritual practice is African spirituality, as you've seen Dr. Clark talking about, and we try to what we try to share in the House of Sankofa is that if we land anywhere in our traditions, because there are many on the continent of what we call traditional African religions, and we are saying the general theme of spirituality is at one with the Most High of the universe, and this is what we try to share with everybody, brothers and sisters, in our journey. Our spiritual practice is the result of a long journey of trying to reconnect and restore the spiritual practices of our ancient African ancestors.
Thank you, Minister Houston. Next, we have Warrior Woman, and she is with Odiate.
Good Islam, ready for the revolution. My life for the last 45 years has been a revolutionary struggle to take back this country, and to give it to the rightful owners of it. We don't claim to be the owners of anything. It's a spirituality that keeps us fighting. We have teachers like Kwame Ture, Khalid Abdul Muhammad, people that gave their lives, sacrificed. To us, spirituality is a way of life. We don't play indigenous. We don't play holier than thou. We don't say me, my, and I. It's us, we, and our. So to us, there is no game. The game is fighting to the last breath and to the last, till our death. My teachers have gone that way, so who am I to be any different? So Bidamia, Shukaran, all my relations, and Oyate means the people's land. It's open to the people of color that are same-minded, revolutionary, and thank you for having me here, Bidamia.
Hotep Africans, I am Brother Muhammad Rinahu. I am an African spiritualist. You know what that means? I practice African spirituality. Truth be told, based on my beliefs, my practices, every religion that we see, for the most part, they are branches of fruits, leaves of a tree that has roots. And me, as I stand on my ancestors' shoulders, I say very clearly that I worship at the root. I worship the trunk, and I respect all the branches and leaves. Yet I recognize that those branches and leaves come from the root, and that's where I dwell.
Pay attention to the questions that are being asked in the panel, because when we go into our breakout sessions, those are some of the questions that we'll go into depth with groups, right? So start thinking about these questions. I'm not saying that you'll get that question in your group, but those are the type of questions that you guys are going to go into detail with when you break out into your groups, okay? All right, a question. And panelists, feel free to raise your hand or expound on any question that I ask, okay? The question is, what spiritual leaders influence your activism role in your community?
The list is many for my influence of spiritual practices in our community. It's almost an unfair question because there's a long list. I could begin with Fannie Lou Hamer, I could Sojourner Truth, but I think that at this time in our history, I think that all of us should aspire to have the conscience of a Brother Malcolm X and the spirituality of one Dr. King.
I'm going to say the great African teacher Lao Tzu. Many people practice a considered Taoist movement, etc., etc. This brother said that the way of man is in nature. And I think that it's very important that we connect with nature. That's going to motivate us to do what we're supposed to be doing. That's one. The other is Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad. Goodness. You want to talk about a brother ready for revolution? My goodness, unapologetic African. Unapologetic about his connection to the Most High. His views, and lived it. I feel like I got chills. I usually got so much to say, but I'm going to encourage this. Dr. Khalid Muhammad, if you don't know, please research and educate yourself about this brother. Yet that's what it's about. It's not only about going and sitting in the church or going and sitting in the area, talking amongst with your people. It's about getting out with the masses of the people and really spitting that information, because many people are thinking it, but some of us have the ability to speak it, and the masses need to hear it. So I would highly encourage Dr. Khalid Muhammad.
To me, my spiritual guide teachers have always been revolutionaries. Growing up to change the food, what is it called? The food lunches in school and high school in Hollister. That's where I started as a farm worker, identifying as Chicano, identifying as Mexican American, then now indigenous Dakota. When you trace your ancestry back, to us it was Pancho Villa, it was Che Guevara, it was Little Crow. Little Crow is from the Dakota, Metawankiduan, because Sioux means cutthroat. So we don't use the term, or Native Americans, anybody who is native and born here, so our teacher says we are Metawankiduan Dakota, that's the original name, and Kwame Ture invited us to go back to the motherland, and we had our first indigenous conference there in Libya, so Muammar Gaddafi teaching us the Green Book, having workshops on the Green Book, and Kwame Ture teaching us about Zionism, it's like we're still in the process of learning. That's why it says when they kill Khalid, they kill Kwame, and they poison all the people, and they continue to poison our mind, our soul, that we want to be women, white women live, but we're brown, you know what I mean? So Khalid Muhammad, there's still some discussion about the separation within the nation, because when they kicked him out, they kicked me out too. But I've been kicked out of better places. So anyway, be down. Shukran.
Thank you.
I think for myself, 3 people come to mind. One, the person of Yeshua, who Europeans call Jesus, just recognizing his life and what it was meant to represent, and how he moved with people and connected and intentionally lived in a way that was emblematic of what it means to live out our spirituality and to impact the world and all that's created inside of us. The second individual has to be my father, who I watched have a genuine relationship with the Creator and to truly seek to connect to the Creator. He wasn't a perfect man, he wasn't everything that even I would have wanted him to be, and yet his pursuit of the Creator was as pure as I've ever seen him. And that's something that will always resonate with me. And then the last individual has to be a brother by the name of Jeffrey Hurd, who started a basketball league by the name of United Basketball in San Jose for 16 years. He had an experience with addiction, sports, streets, gangs, and saw a need in the community, and his spirituality actually led him to do something about it that impacted the community. To this day, years after his death or his passing and transition, men who were part of that program still remember his spirit. And I think to me that is the epitome of what it looks like to live out our spirituality in a way that we resonate and connect with others through generations beyond our time here. And to me that's all of our calling, is how do we manifest what's inside of us and we impact the world in a way where once we transition, the energy that we have begun lives on and it continues to manifest itself in this world.
Thank you. I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty excited about this panel. Lots of great information, and I can feel the spirit moving through here, so I'm excited, y'all. I'm going to go into talking about activism a little bit, okay? Next question I have is, define activism and how expressions of activism have evolved over time. I'll repeat. Define activism and explain how expressions of activism have evolved over time.
One of the missions we have in the House of Sankofa in the 21st century is for us, in particular as African people on the globe, to rehumanize ourselves to ourselves. And in order to do that, you have to act. You have to act upon your spirituality. For instance, when we had the earth to ourselves, every human being was required to understand his or her relationship first to the cosmos, then to Mother Earth, and then to the home of the ancestors. This is how you become a perfect human being, or you strive to be a perfect human being. And if we had harmony and balance with that understanding, none of the false teachings that we come across with the European taking over the world and putting in those false concepts, we cannot be confused on the matter.
Thank you.
I wanted to say that I started in the movement to change the dress code in high school and get hot lunch programs on campus, and then when I went to the university, it's just like a level of growing. I grew out of the United Farm Worker because then I found out I was nonviolent, you know? Because if somebody hit me or said something about me, I'm going to hit them back, you know? So then from American Indian Movement, I joined and made our own organization called Four Directions. Chief Ernie Longwalker, who's my husband, started the American Indian Movement, or when he started, he was 9 years old. And then he became a spiritual teacher, guide on the longest walk at 78, which took us from Sacramento to Washington, D.C. It took us 6 months to do that. So to us, it's like evolving all the time, just like how we saw Khalid evolve from the nation to the new Black Panther, you know, and so we were always constantly moving. We're not just stuck like in one place. And so it's like I said, at 15 I went through puberty, I went through menopause in this revolution, you know, and it's beyond money, it's beyond materialism. It's protecting even the bones of our dead. They're still digging up the graves here. White people are never going to find themselves here. You know, so we tell people that we have over 240 graves there at Redwood, Oyate. You know, so eventually they're going to come after us because there's gold underneath that land, and that's really what they want. 75 to 90% natural resources underneath Oyate and this whole country. So that's what the longest walk was. That's why they put casinos, to put that materialistic value into people's minds, so to get away from the spirituality. To us, it's the creator. But there's no middleman. There's no reverend or minister or anything. It's you straight with God, you know. So to us, that spirituality, like we said, nobody can buy it. To us, if they're going to shoot us, then shoot us. Get it over with. Don't go and torture me with all your economic bondage, you know, with your money and your work and your jobs and stuff, living in a white man's world, because that's all you're keeping up is a white man's world, you know. So we don't want any part of it because our children are still committing suicide. We're still committing suicide with alcohol and drugs, you know. So to us, we're like the last stronghold. Big Mountain is also a last stronghold. Leonard Peltier is the last stronghold. You know, these are people that gave their lives for something, not for drugs, not for to be me, my, or I, and I'm somebody, and some, you know, I'm going somewhere. So, you know, it's an evolving thing. From 15, I said I went through menopause, you know, and to me, I've met a lot of revolutionary people that gave their lives, you know. So it's, I think we have to look at the movement and the struggle like that. It's going to be a lifetime thing. We're not weekend warriors, you know.
Thank you.
Activism is forever changing. I definitely would have to agree with that. I'm going to speak about myself here as far as the type of activism I engaged when I got out here from LA. I got out here, total different culture when I got out here. One of the things I saw was the lack of resistance against the police, to be honest with you, on campus and also on the street. So first thing I did was form what was called Hood Control. And actually at first it was me out there by myself, and that was my form of activism. As time went on, other sisters and brothers joined me, and we had a whole crew. We were going to courts using the information that we saw in court to help people beat their cases. And we beat several cases through this process. From that, you know, I knew that was what I needed to be doing. I'm out there calling crackers in their face, pigs, etc., unapologetically. Oh yes, that was my footage, that was my film, and that's what we did. And that was our form of activism. Also though, going to school and telling the professor that he or she is off track. And then respecting the process of bringing the documentation to prove that the professor is off track. Now, we have a duty to educate our people all the time. So if someone is talking about something that's incorrect, it is our duty and responsibility to call that person out for that misinformation and then produce the truth. Once we've done that, we've done our job. Now each person's gonna do with that truth whatever they want. My activism is done at that point as far as that goes. As soon as I walk out the door, I got more work to do. Believe that. So in all reality, y'all, activism is something that is ongoing. It can only be positive, it can only be spiritual. It's not activism if it's something to bring something down. That's not active. To activate is to turn something on, right? To bring something down is to destroy, is to turn something off. So if someone is a Ku Klux Klan member and say they're activists, that can't be. Because activism is intertwined with spirituality. And if you don't have spirituality, you can't be an activist. That's very important. You are nothing more than an opportunist. We gotta watch out for those folks.
Can spirituality and activism be separated? Can it be separated?
Check out this chair.
I would say yes. Yes, it can be separated. And that when it is separated, it becomes toxic. And it becomes something that is destructive and dehumanizing and loses its initial thrust of energy to humanize. And I think we've seen it in many spaces, in many capacities, where either organizations or individuals go astray from maybe what they had initially intended to carry out. I believe that staying connected with your spirit, with yourself, with your community, with the land, with the Creator, is a part of how you maintain that spirituality. And I think it brings a degree of humility and a degree of interdependence upon one another. And I believe that we see oftentimes that's one of the hardest aspects to maintain in our activist lifestyle. It's one that drains, it's one that consumes a lot of us. And it's a challenge to make sure that we are staying in touch, staying connected, staying in tune, staying humble, and ensuring that we don't begin to embody some of these toxic things that begin to manifest after we disconnect. And so I'll say that yes, because I think it's also part of how we learn and grow as activists. I don't think our activism is something that we start and we hit, and then all of a sudden we're doing it all 100% correct and we're making the headway that we want to make. I think there's a lot of mistakes made along the way. There's a lot of failures. There's a lot of disconnecting and then finding the need to reconnect. And I think in humanizing ourselves in that regard, I think we tap into our greatest power. That we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be these complete beings where we're doing everything right, but we can stay humble and we can stay connected and we can recognize that we need one another to check one another so that we can make sure that we're staying true to being activists and being true to humanizing one another in our community.
I'm going to go a little different. I think because you come from a society that would not exist without spirituality and activism intact. That's the society that you come from. And proof of this, when you look at African societies, we would have disagreements without bloodshed. This is why we were able to sustain civilization for thousands of years. Understand that, brothers, that's something for you to shout about. You see, because as I said, when you get to Europe, when you get to America, they had the audacity to separate science from spirituality. In ancient Africa, that was impossible. You wouldn't dare do that. And they give us examples of this when you read the book you call the Bible, that's incorrectly called the Bible. And you see this person called Jesus in there. And there's a part where he heals the blind man, but he reached down in the mud and take the wetness of that mud and put it in the eyes of the blind person. Now, do you know what that is saying to you? That he had to have some knowledge of pharmacology and science in order to do that. But because the European was opposed to that, that's why you live in this environment they call separate the church from the state. How foolish can you be? How foolish can it be? And we should always have a historical memory to the teachings of our ancestors. You know, when I said at the opening about this thing about the relationship to the cosmos, to the earth, and to the home of the ancestors, that was the first Trinity. Ta, Pet, Duet. For you to never forget that while you was here, the indigenous called it Mother Earth because it gave you things you needed to sustain yourself. And without that, you could not live. And without your understanding of that, this is why we were the world's first scientists. Because we understood the laws, the laws of nature. And this is how we get our religions.
To me, there has to be that separation, with religion and spirituality, because religion has been shoved down our throats, to conform us, to keep us in control. Before it was the woman and the cross. Then they took out the woman, the womb, and then it's just the penis and the testicles of man. So homosexuality is what religion is all about. It's a form of control to us, like the brother said, it's creation. When it's raining, it's a ceremony, it's blessing the earth. Things are going to grow. They can survive. The wind, the air can survive without us. We're the only ones that need them, you know, but this country has kind of manipulated creation, you know. It makes the thunder and lightning, and now, you know, it's just like, what are you praying? Are we really praying to the Creator, or are we praying to what man made, you know? Now, they say, oh, it's not indigenous people, it's UFOs, and the UFO people are still white or gray, but they're not our color, you know, so I still don't believe it. But anyway, it has to be separated. If you don't separate from the white God, you're never going to separate from this white man system, you know, which is called imperialism, based on economic bondage, and they've enslaved us through their educational system. You have to go to preschool, daycare, now you have to have shots to send your kids to the school. To be a parent on campus, you have to have shots too. Now they're saying they're putting bugs and animals, stuff inside these shots. You know, that's insane, and nobody's doing anything, because that's how they got us. They got us programmed with the food. I don't care, even if you plant veggies in the ground is already polluted. So your mind's already, you know, it's just like, duh, wake up. You know, that's how come sometimes when I get up, you go, oh, you know, she's spiritual. You know what, I don't give a fuck about this country. You know, it can go to hell. They are going to hell, you know. This is the language they speak. I'm speaking English, I'm not speaking Dakota. And so in the traditional language, there's no four-letter words. There's no bad words, you know. The worst thing you can say is maybe buffalo ass or something, you know. But anyway, I think we have to be Christianity and also Islam.
All right. Spirituality and religion, two different things. Spirituality is what flows, religion is the cup that you put it in. Problem is if you got a dirty cup, your water's gonna be dirty. I should have dropped the mic there, but I'm not. Right? Now, spirituality and activism, it can't be activism if there's no spirituality in it. It's a waste of time. The one thing that we have that they don't have is spirituality. Now, they got money, they got guns, they got all that stuff. Right? They make it all. Now, no matter where we get it from, it's still that. What carries us through, though, is our spirituality. That's a realm that we link at that they can't. So we can go there, rest and recover, and come back. They are always there. That's why when they get out of war, they have PTSD. They got spirituality. I'm just calling it what it is. Be mad at me if you won't. I don't care. The truth is the truth. We have that. We have to make sure that we stay connected with it. Now, activism without spirituality cannot exist. We have to be very, very clear about that. So when we see people out there doing things, that's not always activism. It's because you're out there doing things. It's not activism. So the spiritual component is very important. When we have that, now our deeds are deeds. Quantifiable and qualifiable with the spiritual aspect of it. So it's going to tell us, hey, while I'm doing this, I know I need to step aside and stop. I always use this as an example. The difference between a soldier and a militant. The militant can be busted. Y'all know what I'm talking about, busted can be busted. And at the same time, put the gun down, pull out some baby wipes, clean the baby, wrap the baby back up, put the baby in the safe spot, pick up that AK and keep busting. You feel me? This is important. That's a militant. We're always ready. The people in Cuba are always ready. You ask them. I was with them out there and they said, hey, how many people are in the military? The Cubans started laughing. They said, 11.2 million. They said, how many people in Cuba? They said, 11.2 million. There it is. Spirituality and activism cannot be separated. For real, we have got to keep our spirit whenever we're doing anything active, because then we know that we're guided by righteousness and truth. If we don't have that spiritual peace, then it's easy to be co-opted. and be running for the man, doing work for the man, unknowingly. Unknowingly. In your collective conscious, you know, yet as you're moving, like the sister said, because of the chemicals in the air, the food, the miseducation, the BS on the TV, etc., 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 that is easily going to stop us from being able to see right from wrong. And that's what they're here to do. So connect with your spirituality. You'll feel something in your gut. We're talking about our chakra levels moving up, right? If you're up here, you can feel everything down here, right? So once you open up that third eye, you'll be able to feel what's in your gut. You'll be able to use your intuition to do what's right and stay away from what's wrong.
What I challenge you guys to do is listen to it not only from the different spiritual practices or religions that represent on this panel, but overall, okay? Now here's the question. Can all of the different religions cooperate in the spirit of spirituality and activism? And if so, what needs to happen for cooperation amongst the various religious groups?
My answer is, like I said before, they're all branches off of the same tree that come from the same root. Now, based on what happened, things change, people have alterations, etc., etc. I'm going to go back to this, though, what all the religions, in my opinion, would have to do. We have to clean up our 7 rivers. Y'all, our ocean is our brain. Y'all follow me? Some of y'all have heard it before, and we'll always speak it to the day I'm transitioning. Your ocean is your brain. The rivers that feed the ocean are your 2 eyes, your 2 nostrils, your 2 ears, and your mouth. Now, if everybody around the world focused on ensuring that their rivers are pure, your ocean will be pure. Your ocean pure, you make pure decisions, regardless of what religion you're with. You're not going to allow yourself to make a decision that's anti-spiritual because your rivers are clear and pure. Therefore, your ocean is clear and pure. Y'all follow me? So if you're watching a bunch of madness or listening to a bunch of madness, eating a bunch of madness or sniffing up a bunch of madness, your brain is going to operate with madness. You watch something pure, you listen to something pure, you eat something pure, you drink something pure, you smell things that's pure, your essential oils, y'all feeling me? Those things are going to allow for a pure ocean, pure action.
To me, if you don't have the teachers and the tradition and the ceremonies, then what are you following? Are you making up a new culture? Another value system? To me, there's organizations that have different religious groups going together in a federation, but it's really run by the FBI or CIA. There has yet to be, like Kwame says, we need to organize. An organization means you have to study, you have to have workshops, you have to have a discipline. Because the white man says in 3 years, if you're still in the same organization, you still can be brought down to assimilate with them. But if you go 5 years, which one of the rules in the nation and other places where you can study and workshop and can't speak out in public until 5 years of your study, then you're capable of opening your mouth and saying something after you study what Zionism is, what imperialism is, what communism is, So there's a lot of stuff that, unless we have a true organization like a united front, but a united front with all of us. We have land, we have resources. Why haven't our leaders gotten together and used them? We have gold under Redwood, and how many times have we offered people come and live on the land? Come and help, and nobody's the leadership, they want to live white. They want the materialism, they want the air condition, they want all the electricity, and where's it coming out of? Indian land that our people are sitting on right now. That's why they want us dead, that's why they want to remove us, that's why he says, we're going to fight till the death, and I don't care about these Indians, they're still dancing with feathers up their ass because they're in the white man's world, living in the white man's world. What do you think Obama was going to the White House and going to all the Indian places, and then right after they started polluting all the rivers and oceans on the Indian land? We're supposed to be sovereign. We're supposed to make our own license plates, our own freedom of religion. We have to fight. Long Walker did 15 years to add the freedom of religion in this country. We went, and 9/11, we were driving around with our own license plates, because Moore says you got to stand this way, do that, it's bullshit. We are indigenous. You have to take it upon yourself. They have papers at the DMV that you put down indigenous. Let them fucking look for over who's a secretary and works this fucking land base, you know? And what tribe you belong to. We say now we're from the best one, you know? You can pick whichever one you want because they're putting in white people. When I went to San Jose State and I said, these white people that are claiming Indian, if they had a bloody nose, they'd have no more Indian blood in them. You know what I mean? And then they said, oh, the Mexican people are across the border and the Indians over here in Canada aren't, you know? And we're the same people. Did they divide us? We divided ourselves because they divided us. We listen to the white man. All his things that he does, you know, of structure and organization and stuff, we follow them. We listen to them and they're still goddamn lying to you. You know, he's been the devil since the beginning when he landed here in a spaceship or goddamn boat. He still needed help from us as a people. He would have gotten nowhere. That's why I says I tell our teachers, don't give them no history of our past. We used to communicate with the creation without no, you know, internet. You know what I mean? I've seen places where you can go in with purification of this earth. But to us, you have to be into the spirituality of the sweat lodge, which is called the A.M.E. But it's called sweat lodge when the white people or white educated Indian people came back and there's a hierarchy and they call it a lodge. You know, Mason Lodge, Illuminati and all that. So you have to break down. We are breaking down at Redwood, at Oriate, the educational system, you know. So what if we were the first people here? If we had no cultural value system, then what the hell are we doing? You know what I mean? You can be the first, I don't give a shit, you know. I'd rather go back to the creation, back to the earth, you know, and let the Mother Earth clean herself. You know, we're talking about purification, the end of the world. This was in 78, and we're still talking about it. We can't just start now and start praying to God, oh, come and save me. You shouldn't have done that 10 years ago, 20 years ago. What happened to your goddamn leaders? The real ones they killed. Wake up. What does Khalib or Malik say? Hello?
I think one of the challenges that sits before us is how do we live this out in our everyday lives? You know, we can talk about community, but how many of us are engaging with our Muslim brothers and sisters and our Hindu and our Buddhist, as well as our own cultural community group? How many of us are connected with our youth and understanding what they're experiencing and embracing their unique individuality and humanity? Or are we still imposing our generational view on them? How are we embodying this spirituality and this activism? I mean, there's a lot of work that we're doing, and it's necessary work with combating an evil system, a state that is looking to oppress and to harm and to snatch away our children. And yet at the same time, how many of us do, as within my religious practice says, suffer the children unto us? Are we engaging with the children? Are we spending time with our children? I mean, we want to fight the state and stay away from our children, but how many of the children do we take into our homes and make sure they have food and make sure that when they're walking on the street, we recognize them and look them in the eyes and say, how you doing, brother? How you doing, sister? And I recognize you, I see you. Because I see a lot of brothers and sisters who walk on the streets every single day and nobody will say nothing to them. So, for me, what does this look like for us to come together? It looks like for us to really see the need that we have for one another. If I'm a spiritual leader, I should connect with other spiritual leaders. I should connect with other spiritual groups. So why I'm here today. There's a responsibility that I stay connected to people who see the world differently. And at the same time, take that and give that information and that access to that spirituality to our next generation. I can't do either being disconnected from either. I can't give what I haven't partaken in. I can't share who I'm not engaging with. And so I think there's a responsibility that we have to have if we're going to stay connected, if we're going to work collaboratively, or are we going to just stay in our silos? Are we going to keep doing the same old thing, hoping that the next generation somehow miraculously catches it out of the air? Because like we already acknowledged, they're catching everything else through their 7 rivers. They're seeing violence all around them. They're hearing violence and dehumanization all the time. They're seeing materialism and capitalism all the time. Are they seeing and hearing us more? And I think that that's the challenge. If we're going to come together and we're going to actually live this out and gain the victory that we're seeking, we're going to have to really start challenging ourselves. How do we get more people to events like this? How do we have a more diverse crowd? Because we are living in San Jose, the Bay Area, one of the most diverse spaces probably in the world. How are we engaging with the rest of our community if we know that we need one another? So I think this is a great opportunity for us to turn these questions inward. What do we need to do if we're going to really be cooperating with one another and coming together with one another?
I think the answer to the question, all we have to do is look at and meditate on the picture of a slave ship. And in there you will see all traditions to Shango, to the Orishas, to Yema, and to the Voduns. All we had to come together going across those waters and create a new reality for ourselves to fight this backwardness. Now, as backwards as these foreign religions are, with us participating in them, we used to have in America what is called the Negro Conventions. If anybody know about that? How we used to have those conventions, and we would talk about the destiny of us as a people. You see, you could be a Baptist, a Methodist, Episcopalian, it didn't matter. But when you came to that convention, you know, the great African Frederick Douglass said, without struggle, there's no progress. And we came together upon that premise. And this was us paying homage to this force of spirituality in the universe that this brother was talking about. We recognize this at one with the universe instinctively, and we still do it today. And you know what used to be in our lexicon that we don't use no more, that we use as a standard for the very best of us, is when we seen a brother and or sister living up to those standards, what do we call them? That's a question. What do we call them? We call them a race man or a race woman, because that immediately told us that these were individuals that were keeping the traditions of our ancestors alive.
Political education and ideological training is very important. With the All African People's Revolutionary Party, we have work study circles. And in those work study circles, there's specific books that we're reading. It's one thing to go read a book and have your interpretation on that book, and it's another thing to sit up with your comrades and have ideological struggle around your interpretation of that book. You're around people who you are confident spiritually, mentally, and physically with, right? And so these sisters and brothers are saying, hey bro, I heard your thought about chapter 2, but this is my thought on chapter 2. And that gives you a different perspective. That gives you a broader approach to the information that you're receiving. There's brothers like W.E.B. Du Bois, Walter Rodney, I mean, I can go on forever, yet that ideological training is what's needed for people to understand. Through my ideological training and my political education, I see very clearly why I can talk to a Muslim and a Christian and somebody who considers themselves a Jew, and I can sit in the same room and say, what's up, brothers? And say, hey, y'all got the same grandfather as me, if you read your book. Abraham is the father of both of y'all. That's simple, right? And that's the truth. If you don't know it, check it out. The other thing I can say is from a Buddhist perspective, I know that Buddha was a revolutionary. Buddha said, hey, what y'all doing here in India is not right. So what we're gonna do is revolutionize spiritual practices and do X, Y, and Z. Oh, y'all won't let me do it here? Cool, I'm gonna go on a journey and find my other brothers and sisters who I know who are African as well. And I can go on from religion to religion, yet that's political education, ideological training that needs to take place amongst the masses. At that point, we'll see more similarities than differences, and we'll be ready to roll.
All right, next question we have. This could be kind of controversial. Can spirituality and politics be mentioned in the same breath? I repeat, can spirituality and politics be mentioned in the same breath?
You come from a society that had continuity for over thousands of years. And this thing about we have to be able to define politics to understand that this is how we were able to accomplish the longevity of those civilizations that we come from. And yes, in that venue it can. But where you at now is an absolute impossibility. Where you at now in America and Europe, because of the inherent backwardness that's there. It cannot be done. But where you come from, I'm thinking of Chancellor Williams' destruction of black civilization. You know, we live by one constitution on a whole continent. And so this thing about politics and spirituality is a reality. This is what we mean when we say we as African people, wherever we are on the globe, must struggle to rehumanize ourselves to ourselves. Recognize us when we see us.
That was one thing I liked about Khalid Muhammad when we traveled into Africa and Europe. Any black person he saw, he would say, comrade, brother, sister, you know, he'd talk to him, you know. A lot of us through the culture, you know, you don't talk to men you don't know. And so there's difference in it, but that's one of the things that we could break, you know, out of is that when you see your people, talk to them as comrades. I don't think you know, when we go to the white man's media and stuff to let them know what's happening with the indigenous people, they say, well, that's politics. This is their language. This is what they use when they want to hear us or they don't want to hear us. So to me, politics and you know, spirituality, it doesn't mix. What we are trying to do, living in this white man's world, is putting a Band-Aid on cancer. It's not going to work. It's never worked. So why don't we just give it up? You know, it's like kissing ass to the white man so you can be part of his world. But he never included you in his constitution, his civil rights. We're human rights, and human means animal-like. Listen to the language that they use. It's like a foreign language because they use other ways of talking to each other. And plus, they're not even the ones who control city council and stuff. We're going through all these ladders. When we went to Libya, and Gaddafi goes, you know, go straight to the White House and get the president of those guys and let them know it's, you know, it's not the people and all the things, the little programs in between. You know, why did they make Clinton and Hillary Clinton look like the Kennedys? You know, the longer you live, you see all the little things that they've done and who they killed, you know, and why they killed them. They don't want us to wake up because they want us to continue to be their slave workers. And if we don't wake up, then we deserve to live in their hell and die in the white man's filth.
Here, there's a term that our comrades used to say. They called it politricks. So we have to be very clear that what we see here, same as Warrior Woman and Minister Houston was saying, very clear. Here in this country, engaging in politics and talking about spiritual politics here in America is backwards and not possible. These people don't deal with spirituality. And I've already made that very clear that is where I'm at. They don't know spirituality. Therefore, politics and spirituality can't exist. So if you're a spiritual person and you want to go dwell within politics, be very clear that you're going to have to take that blue razor and shave some of your spirituality off to fit in. If that's what you want to do. Spook who sat by the door, so to speak. That's your business. Me, myself, I can't do that. I won't do that. I refuse to. And so I'm out and very clear that spiritual politics is what governed us in ancient times. There was no politics without spirituality. Matter of fact, the laws of Ma'at, right? Right? Those are politics right there. And so those are the politics that we know. So when I'm talking about, hey, President, I'm talking about President of the United States of Africa. That's it. And so what I'm trying to encourage our youth, right, is to develop themselves to be the next president of the United States of Africa. That's the politics I'm talking about. I can't engage in anything that is an issue. When we talk about Kwame Ture, we say that this politic discussion is an issue. So I don't deal with politics from that level. It's an issue. I'm dealing with the infrastructure. I'm focusing on building the infrastructure over in Africa with my African brothers and sisters. And so I would encourage that when we're talking about spirituality and politics, we're very clear that there is a difference between politics in America and politics in ancient Africa. And there's a difference between slavery in Africa and slavery here, right? So we can't use their words to express our experiences. It's dangerous.
Can spirituality and politics be mentioned in the same breath? Of course it can be mentioned. My brother just mentioned it, and it's applicable. I think also understanding the difference between the political sphere that's established by oppressive government and the political sphere that you can establish within your own communities. And I think understanding the power that we have and the agency we have within establishing something within our own communities versus trying to engage with an oppressive community that was never meant to achieve the outcomes that you're trying to do in your own community. Can it be mentioned in the same breath? Yes. If you try to go into the oppressive community and create change there, probably going to catch hell. And you should catch hell. And it's actually a good sign that you're actually maintaining some sort of integrity, which is actually what we talk to the young men about and the young women about. If you want to go into politics and an oppressive government, sure, great, maintain your spirituality, and when they kick you to the side, or when they confront you, or when they reject you, understand that that's the reality of what is there. And at the same time, your spirituality should also inform you that, hey, if this door is not opening, that might be okay. And maybe you go figure out someplace else to where you can establish the type of environment and the type of the governance that you desire for you and your community and your children. I think I'm in a space today where I look at my own involvement in understanding the political sphere. I think it's important that we are aware, and I want to make sure that I make this point. Don't get so disenchanted that we stop becoming aware, because we can't protect our children from what we don't know, right? I need to know that the San Jose Police Department just reinitiated a department of their policing that was going to begin interrogating and harassing homeless people and individuals who look like they're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and have given them license and their own battalion to be able to do so. I need to know. I need to know what's getting passed down from the state. I need to know what's getting passed down through government. So don't get so disenchanted that we stop becoming engaged and then all of a sudden we have no idea what's hitting us from the side. And at the same time, balance that out with understanding the agency and the power that we have every single day with creating our own policies within our own families, within our own homes, within our own communities, within our own people, and that has just as much power, if not more, to make sure that we can create the type of environment where our children can still thrive. Because I need to be able to say, hey, you know what? To my daughter, this whole grading system is BS. And I understand why it's BS, and I'm going to explain to you why it's BS. And at the same time, I need you to understand why it's important that you learn how to read and how to write and how to do arithmetic and be able to distinguish the difference between them. And so that is a part of how we are going to establish something that can survive and thrive in spite of what's going on around us. And I think understanding that difference, being able to see both and find that balance is a major aspect of our activism today.
What we have learned is that you guys have answered almost every question that we had imaginable and more. So we're going to move to our closing statement. We do understand that spirituality and activism is under attack, and the combination of the two is under attack. We would like for you guys to share your closing statements in regards to this topic, and something you want to leave with the rest of the folks in the room.
I think that if we didn't get anything out of the session here on spirituality and activism, you look at the theme today, the will to fight and lead us towards victory. So our spirituality and our activism should teach us to want to not only just survive, but thrive as a people. We have to get out of the survival mode and start thinking about the thriving mode in the context of liberation.
Kwame Ture once said, it's inevitable, a revolution, we're going to win. We already outnumber the white man. Till it gets into our minds, I mean, just with the black community, you got the Chicano community, you got the indigenous, we already won. You know? I just wanted to let you know that it's not a perfect circle, but in the middle, we had the medicine people and the spiritual people. After that, it was the parents and the family unit. Then it was the warrior, the dog soldier society. But the parents are the spiritual and the teachers and the medicine people. So it was always one in the beginning. Those are your grandparents, your great-grandparents. That's your mom and your dad. That's your brother and sisters. Are warriors, so there's no separation. The white man has the pyramid. Ours is almost, you know, the circle with the moon and stuff, even though they say the moon might have UFOs on it, but it's still a circle on the outside. No. Bidamia, thank you.
Hopefully, through this discussion, folks have understand that spirituality needs to govern all your decisions, all your actions, from what you're going to eat to what you're going to do, who you're going to do it with, and where you're going to be doing it. It's very important that spirituality is with you at all times. And I'm not going to sit up here and make it seem like, oh yes, I never slip and I never have this and I never have that. That would be me lying up here. That would be me not practicing spirituality. We need to know that we're going to make mistakes, we're going to slip, and that's going to happen. Yet our goal is to get back on track. Our goal always is to correct our mistakes so we don't have nothing to regret. So we have a saying, right? It is our job as a child to correct our parents' mistakes. The more mistakes I correct and the less mistakes I make, the less work my son has to do. That's spirituality and activism. And everything, leaving a legacy of spirituality and activism within your family. Someone says, what is your dad about? My son is going to say, where do you want me to start? And he'll say, the first thing is he's a spiritual man, he's a mental man, he's a physical man, and he thinks it's important to have edutainment. That's my balance, that's my spiritual balance. And it's very important that our children know what that is. So when we make decisions, when we get this United States of Africa, and we're talking about putting in political structures, we have something that's guiding us to doing things correctly. We have something that says we have got to be socialists. Healthcare has to be free, education has to be free. Many of those values that we see in socialist countries, we have got to know that, and our spiritual principles are going to guide us. Our spiritual principles are going to let us know that the principal is as important as the janitor at the school. That's going to be the spiritual principles. That's going to make sure that we know the masses are the masses, and no matter what they're doing collectively, we make the whole. That's the spiritual aspect that we're talking about. Like I say, the Seven Rivers. What are you going to watch on TV? Is it going to be a documentary about John Henry Clark or Fannie Lou Hamer? Or is it going to be Bad Housewives of Atlanta or whatever? It's up to you, real talk. It's going to be up to you. So I'm encouraging y'all, whenever you make moves with your spirit in mind, and that you have to do something that's active. You have to be doing something active. Now, for me, I'm going to say you can't do that without a group. Individually, there's no word. For ancient people, there is no word for individual or independent. Don't let them trick you. There's nobody in this room who can stand up and tell me anything about individual or independent. And if you can, I'm willing to talk to you right now. But if you can't, think about that. Get organized. Find a group, organize with them, or start a group and get organized. Seriously. With spirituality as your guide. If not, who are you organizing for?
In my spiritual practice, two things came to mind. One, that they will know who you are by your love. They will know who you are by your love. If people engage with you and they miss your care for them and seeing them, that you see their humanity and you see the value of them. If If they miss that, then they missed your spirituality. They missed what you say that you're supposed to be about. The second aspect within my spiritual practice is knowing who you are called to serve and to love. There are many throughout our community, but understanding and having a concept of it, knowing that I'm supposed to serve the homeless, the incarcerated, the vulnerable, the widow, the orphan, those in foster care systems, dealing with mental health, addiction, and crisis. Knowing that we have to be intentional about who we are intentionally loving and showing care for in light of this oppressive environment that we're in is essential to our work. We can't walk around oblivious that we have a mandate, that we have a mission, that we have a direction about what we're trying to accomplish. We can't just be so spiritually minded that we're no earthly good, as they also say. We have to make sure that we are intentional, that we see these young children. And if they're sitting around us and they don't feel comfortable, or they don't feel welcome, or they don't feel acknowledged, did we just miss it? Did we just have a great little conference and a great meeting and we never look the kids in their eyes and say, I see you, I recognize you, and you're a part of this? And so, as we go forward in our spirituality and in our activism, be intentional and know the power that we have in our intentions. We have immense power. One of the greatest lies that was ever told us was that we had no power, that we could not accomplish it. We often say, oh, the masses, the masses. You have the genetics of your ancestors. You have the culture. You have the knowledge. You have the power. But do you believe it? Do you believe you can transform your community and your family? Do you believe that you can make a difference in your nephew and your niece's life? Do you believe that you can make sure that you break what we call in my tradition and these generational curses? These things that have been passed down from generation to generation of addiction and homelessness and violence and anger. Do we believe that we can make that type of a difference? Because if we don't believe we can make that difference, then what are we talking about? Why am I talking about changing a whole state, a whole nation, a whole world? And I don't even believe I could change my own family. And so as we move forward, let's make sure that we're really embodying this, we're really living this out. And let's start at home, because the skills that we garner there, the battles that we're going to have with those people that watched us grow up our whole lives, and all of a sudden you want to tell them about patriarchy, and they're saying, what? That battle? That's why you're going to actually have the tools to win when you go out there. So let's start at home.
Okay, guys, time is running low. We're going to bring it to the audience to ask questions. And we're going to limit it to 3 questions, okay? 3 questions. Anybody have any questions?
Language, words. I'm hearing words and language. I didn't want to say anything, but you all are talking, and I'm not going to act like that doesn't matter. So, yes, love. However, I'm not a God, and it's not you guys. We need to get hold of that, please, because you're talking. You all are talking. And you're being introduced. So is it rooted? Or are we messing around? So I hear you guys and you guys and you guys and you guys, and you say words, you say messages, you say language, you say impossible. Now, if it wasn't for Brother Val, I wouldn't have been here. And he don't live in my community. So it's something about having that connection. Coochie Chakalia, I'm here. Brother Val says, Coochie Chakalia is gonna be here. I'm getting here. I'm getting here. I'm getting here. So language, words, very important. It's not It's possible. It's possible. All of it is possible. Love. But I must say, you guys, everywhere I go, it's really important that I am not a God. I birthed these babies not because I'm a God. I hold the word. I'm part of the root. I am not a God. And please, it's very important for you to know that this energy that brings these babies through, we're here, we're helping each other, reaching out, and you're saying to keep it real, so let's please, 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 it's really, really important for you to know, please, I am not a God. Help us make that connection. Help us keep it real. Thank you.
For the indigenous descendants that are willing and able to continue vibrating high and engaging in ascension and self-preservation now. So in your ceremony, in the physical, in the flesh, for our dream world, ceremony, keep us updated and in the loop. Thank you.
I was blessed last night as I understood I was going to get here today. It was very important for me in my personal journey to be here in this energy as much as I possibly can. And in my search, I came across a 4-section YouTube with Dr. Barbara blocked the legs, besides one. We used to call it fire. And she left with this. This is the crux of the problem. What identity do you want? We have chosen to destroy the main weapon of survival, our identity. We did not have to. Severe problem for U.S. and our children. If I don't like who it is, then I am not going to raise a child who does. My child is a mirror of me. The way out is the mobilization of the group to struggle for the survival of the individual. We must get it. Black folks don't get it. We must get it. I am not giving up my individual rights to struggle for the group. Wrong. That's not what it's about. The problem, the Constitution gives you indivisible rights, but you can only protect them as a group. To survive the group must ensure that each individual member is able to take care of him or herself, reproduce themselves, and take care of the prodigy. We are losing in the group function.
Hey y'all, my name is Edwin. I'm from Anaheim, Silicon Valley, and we are Filipinos who are fighting against imperialism here in the States. And I just want to say I'm super grateful that we get to share this space with y'all and share this revolution with all of you as well. And thank you for for having this event and bringing spirituality and activism together. We recognize our liberation as Black and brown brothers and sisters are directly tied to one another. None of us are liberated until all of us are liberated. Here we are talking today about spirituality. And as Filipino people, we had our spirituality was really taken away from us when we were colonized. We were colonized by not only the sword, but by the cross as well. Meaning by religion. And in the Philippines, we practice animism, which honors the land, it honors the people, and it honors our ancestors. And when the colonizers came, they persecuted a lot of our spiritual leaders. They killed them and chopped them up and fed them to the crocodiles because they were so fearful that, from the power our spiritual leaders had. And this persecution of our spiritual leaders continues today. Our Catholic priests who are speaking against the genocide and killings that our government is doing on the people, he's assassinating them because they continue to speak out against them. And as activists, we know it is our love of the people, our love of the earth, and the land that we fight for. That is truly our spirituality. And we continue this fight together. So is it cool we do a chant together? Is that cool with y'all?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so it's a call and response. So I say, Yutang Kabilin, and then y'all say, Depensahan, Bana Linda. So that means defend our ancestral land. So it's Yutang Kabilin, Depensahan, Bana